And now we're going to do nouns. The most important thing about nouns is that they name. So if I say, what's that? You say, that is a car. That's a pen. That's a virus. That's a mask. That is sanitizer. All the things that we didn't talk much about. Now we talk a lot about. We are naming it. There are different kinds of nouns. Are you often asked this in exams? Not really. But common nouns are ordinary, everyday things, usually things that you can see and smell and taste and touch. Abstract nouns name concepts, ideas, feelings, love, hate, fear, if we're talking about the virus. Oh, we had a word today in class, trepidation. It's quite a nice word. Trepidation is like anxious fear. It's what you feel before an exam, you know, kind of fluttery, nervous kind of fear. That's trepidation. It's not the sheer horror when something really, really bad is about to happen. That's more like dread. Dread. But trepidation is that sort of nervous fear. So these are abstract nouns. By the way, this, let me just get a different color. This is a fairly typical suffix to show an abstract noun in English. We have collective nouns. So I was doing somewhere or other that I was doing fleet. I really am enjoying using this computer. Right, so fleet can be an adjective, but fleet is also a noun. We have a fleet of ships. So a whole lot of ships is a fleet of ships. So we have the collective noun. There's my collective. We also can talk about concrete nouns, though I don't like that much, but I have seen it. So there are different kinds of nouns. Do I think you need to worry about learning them? They don't ask them often in the exam. They don't say, what kind of noun is this? But you might have done it, pull it back out of memory, see if you've got it there, and see if you can use it. What's really important is that you use nouns effectively. So again, in class today, somebody said in an answer, people. No, not people. People too vague. The child said soldiers. Yes. So use your nouns very specifically. They are naming things. And what you can get is to be asked to give the noun form of something. See if I can just go down with this. So you can be asked, let's say you're given a maze. You can be asked, give the noun form. In home language, they tend to say, give the noun form of a maze. In FAL, they tend to put it in a sentence. I felt such, and they'll put a maze like that, when I saw that I had won the lotto. So FAL tends to put the word in a context, and they want the noun. Home language tends to ask you just for the noun. So that would be amazement. So this is derivatives. So yes, do you need to know derivatives? Absolutely. What are common abstract noun suffixes? We said shin, mint, see, ness, like happiness, honesty. I was thinking of clemency, and I was trying to find an easier word. So these are common suffixes. So if I give you a word and say, give me the abstract noun, if you're a home language student, try it with different abstract noun suffixes and see which one makes sense. So if you say, I want the abstract noun from contrite, even if you don't know what contrite means, go contrition, contritement, contrite-see, contriteness, contrite-T. What sounds better? So it's actually contrition. So, but try one of them and then just write something down. You're not going to get negative marking. To be contrite is to feel sorry that you've done something wrong and to apologize and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. All right, so you get nouns asked as derivatives in the exam. Then Marlon asked about pronouns. So when you've used a noun, so if you've said, I don't know, Vanessa, and you've used that once, you don't want to go on saying it. English finds that irritating. So we go to the personal pronoun. Now, as you know, she and he are causing huge problems in English at the moment because we are so very aware of gender. So let's just talk about our personal pronouns. In the singular, we say I and you, and here are the problem ones, he, she, and it. In the plural, we've got we, you, and they. This is your first person, your second person, and your third person. Now, certain examining boards like IEB tend to ask you about pronouns. The National Senior Certificate tend to ask you to use pronouns, because that's a slightly different way of looking at it. So there's a lot of debate about this because these give gender. So we have masculine and feminine and neuter. And people are saying they want to get away from gender. So look what happened to you. English used to have a singular and a plural. And now we have the same pronoun for singular and plural. And yeah, it can cause a bit of problem. You know, if I say something like, you don't know your grammar, I have to stop and say, I'm not talking to you specifically, this child, I'm talking to all of you. I have to say you singular or you plural. But I don't have to do that all the time. If I'm looking at one person and say, you didn't hand in your home reader, please could you bring it tomorrow? It's quite clear I'm talking to one person. And if I say, those of you who didn't hand in your readers today, please would you bring them tomorrow? It's quite clear I'm talking to plural. So people are saying, they've suggested so many pronouns to replace he and she. The general sort of suggestion from quite a lot of people is, why don't we just use they? They singular and they plural, the way we have you singular and you plural. And then people are saying, no. How will you know if they is singular or they is plural? Well, we work quite well with you. Why can't we use they? Because other suggestions on he and she haven't found favor. So people have said, why don't we try this word? Why don't we try that word? And people try it for a bit, but it doesn't catch on. So please won't you think about this? This is a very sensitive and important issue at the moment. English has got these gender pronouns there in the third person singular. Could we find a pronoun that we can all happily agree on that would be a singular third person pronoun? Now, are we starting to do this anyway? Yes, actually we are. we'll write something like, if a child has a cold, please keep them at home. Do you see what normal English speakers are already doing? Technically, that is incorrect grammar. Why? Because a child is singular. And you know your rule of concord. A singular noun must be followed by a singular pronoun. Is this singular? No, it's plural. But we're already doing this. Lots and lots of English speakers are doing this. And I'm not talking about people who are learning English and are making a mistake. I'm talking about English speakers speaking their own language. They're already doing this. So if this is already happening, why don't we just go with it and say it doesn't matter? Because otherwise I have to say, if a child has a cold, please keep, right, him or her at home. Well, which is neater? Do you prefer, I wanted red. Sorry, I want red. Do you prefer him or her, or do you prefer them? I'm just asking you, what do you think sounds neater, cleaner, better? I'd go with what is technically incorrect grammar. So if we're doing this, then why can't we go on and say, if a child has a cold, please keep them at home. They is maybe going to make everybody else sick. Could we get there? How do you feel about this? Please enter into this debate and let's try and find a way for English to move forward into the 21st century. Come on, let's just push the language and see where we can go with this. I don't know. I'm quite happy. Let's see. So what do we find as English teachers? What happens anyway is when we're marking right and wrong, we kind of have to suss out where the language is at the moment. And so something that is technically wrong, because I know my grammar, is being used by so many English speakers, and it's in written English, that I'm not going to mark it wrong. The things that people still think are wrong, I'm going to mark wrong. So let's take a word like aggravate. I'm sorry, I've moved away from pronouns for a second. But if we take aggravate, what is it meant to mean? Well, if you look at a dictionary from, I think even from the 80s, it would give you meaning one, to make worse, meaning two, to irritate or annoy. But what if you look in a dictionary now? If you go to a 2020 dictionary, this is meaning one, and this is meaning two, and it says old-fashioned. So why has that happened? Because English speakers stopped using aggravate to mean to make worse, and English speakers used aggravate to mean irritate and annoy. So you can't say, but it's supposed to mean this. Supposed by whom? These are English speakers speaking their own language. You can't tell them, you're not allowed to do that. That's very naughty. So when enough people are doing something in the language, then dictionaries and grammar teachers and everybody change. They shift. Because we don't tell people what they should be doing. We kind of, as I said, we look at how are people using it, what is the grammar like here, what's the grammar like in this country. So it might be wrong in the United States of America, but it's correct in South Africa. So this is South African English, and it's correct South African grammar. So language is always in a state of flux. It's moving, it's changing all the time. And we English teachers are, as I said, we're like skating in the middle. Where do we mark it wrong? Where do we mark it right? So if you said to me, we're going to mark they is if we're talking about a singular they, and we're going to write they are when we're talking about lots of theys. I could live with that, but at the moment it's still I am, not I is. All right, so as an English teacher, if you tell me this is the route we're going, so let me get my red pen. When they is singular, it's going to be they is, and when they is plural, it's going to be they are. I've not got a problem, but if you write I is, then I'm going to mark you wrong. Until eventually English speakers say I is, and then suddenly I is will become right. Okay, so Marlon, I've moved quite far away from pronouns. You need to know those are your personal pronouns. You need to look at your examining board. Who are you writing for? What kinds of questions do they ask on pronouns? Are they still asking quite a sort of old-fashioned concord? If a child is absent, please could you provide them with work to do at home? Are they still saying, no, that mustn't be them, that must be he or she? You need to look at your examining board. Is your examining board asking questions like, why are we saying that a child is singular, but them is actually a better pronoun to use? Are they asking you to discuss the use of pronouns? Are you engaging with the language, or are you trying to apply the rules? So Marlon, look at, are you home language? Are you FAL? Are you SAL? And which examining board are you writing for? And what kinds of questions is your examining board asking on pronouns? Okay, and what do I do as an English teacher if you say something like the bride, he? Do I say a bride is always feminine? Is a bride always feminine? Is this word always going to be feminine in English today? So we're in, as I said, a state of flux, everybody. So I think we need to be sensitive. We need to be sensitive to the use of words that indicate gender, like bride and bridegroom. We've got to be sensitive to our pronouns. And somehow we've got to find consensus. And it doesn't have to be with every single English-speaking country. Let's just find consensus in South Africa amongst those of us who speak English regularly. Right, that's pronouns.